Okay, today's video will be all about inverse of a function. So if you have given your function of x, the notation if f of x, the notation of the inverse will be f prime x. So this will be the notation of inverse. So if your function is given is g of x, the notation will be g prime of x, or this is the notation of the inverse function. So if you can see like this, so we want to look for the inverse of the function. So for example, so how can we find the inverse of a function? So that will be our topic for today. So for example, given the function f of x is 4x minus 5, and then find the inverse. Find the inverse. So we want to find the inverse. So in that case, so we want to find the inverse of the function for x minus 5. So the first step, this f of x, you just let this to be y. So this will give us y is equals to 4x minus 5. That will be your first step. Now, second step is you need to solve for this x. So you have to solve for x, meaning you wanted a new formula or a new form where x is equals to something. So that will be your goal. So this is your second step. Okay, so that means I will let my 4x stay here and my 5 on the other side. Since I want to find my x, I will divide both sides by 4 so that 4 will be gone. So the new formula, so the new function of x will be y plus 5 all over 4. Once you have reached this one, your third step is you just change your x will become y, your y will become x. And the resulting will be your inverse function. Therefore, the inverse of f of x, the inverse function of x is x plus 5 all over 4. So you just have to follow. So this is the inverse of the function for x minus 5. Okay, so let us have another one. F of x is 6 minus 5x over 7. So we want to find the inverse. So first step, you make this your y. So y is equals to 6 minus 5x all over 7. Next step, you solve for x, meaning you want x is equals to something. So that will be your second step. So what will you do? You can cross multiply. You can remove the 7 here. How can you remove the 7 here? So you can, so this will be the first step, right? So I can remove my 7 if I'm going to multiply both sides by 7. So this will be, and then I'm going to multiply 7 into y, 7y, multiply by 7, so that 7 will be gone. So I only have 6 minus 5x. I will solve my x, so I will put it on the other side. So 5x is equals to 6 minus 7y. I want x only, so I will remove my 5 by dividing both sides by 5. Therefore, I only have x is equals to 6 minus 7y all over 5. Now, what will be my next step? You change your x, you make this your y. So your x becomes y, and then your y becomes x. So we have 6 minus 7x all over 5. And this is now the resulting inverse of the function 6 minus 5x all over 7. So all you need to do is write as this notation, meaning the inverse of the function. So this will be 6 minus 7x all over 5. So this will be now the inverse of this function above. Okay, let's continue. Let's have another example. So f of x is 2x squared minus 1. So you let your f of x to be y. Okay. Now, what is your next step? You want to solve for x. So you want to solve for x. So this will be, so you will have y plus 1 is equals to 2x squared. I want my x, so I will remove both sides by 2. So the 2 will be gone. So I have x squared is y plus 1 all over 2. Now take note, you have a square. How can you remove a square? By taking the root of both sides. So therefore, you only have x is equals to the root of y plus 1 all over 2. Now, your next step is you interchange x becomes y and your x becomes y, your y becomes x. So you have now the resulting inverse of the function. So you just have to rewrite as the notation of the inverse of the function. So x root of x plus 1 all over 2. Okay, so let's have our last example. Given f of x is over x over 4. So again, you make this f of x to be y and solve for x. So you remove the 4 by dividing both sides by 4. So this will be 4 times y, 4y. And so here, 4 will be gone, is equals to x. Or x is equals to 4y. Next step, you interchange x becomes y and y becomes x. So this is now the resulting inverse function, or rewritten as f inverse of x is equals to 4x. 3 steps. Again, you have to find the inverse of the function. 3 steps. First, you make your y. You make your f of x be equals to y. That is the first step. Second step, solve for x, which means x should be equals to something. And then 3, you interchange x and y, meaning x becomes y becomes x. And the result will be your inverse function. So after you follow these three steps, you will obtain the inverse of the function.